Wir werden Ihnen heute Abend zwei herausragende, neue, sehr raffiniert gebaute, spannende Krimis vorstellen. Und ich freue mich natürlich ganz besonders, dass die Autorinnen auch da sind. Das sind nämlich zwei der erfolgreichsten und beliebtesten niederländischen, muss man ja perfekterweise sagen, Autorinnen zur Zeit. Herzlich willkommen in München, Esther Verhoef und Marion Pauw. Und damit Sie in dem Gemisch aus Deutsch, Niederländisch und Englisch, den Sie heute zu hören bekommen, auch ein bisschen durchblicken, haben wir auch noch die deutsche Stimme des Abends. Ich freue mich auch ganz besonders, dass eine der beliebtesten und erfolgreichsten Münchner Schauspielerinnen, aber weit über München hinaus bekannt, durch Fernseh, Film, Kino und Theaterengagements, Julia Ronstedt. Herzlich willkommen. Ist das für Sie in Ordnung, wenn ich in Deutsch einleite, aber einige Gespräche auch in Englisch stattfinden?
Ja.
Ja? Okay, also falls Sie Fragen haben, melden Sie sich einfach, wir können gerne dann auch konkret übersetzen. Have you been both together on a stage?
Never.
Never.
No, first time.
And have you been to Munich?
Yes, I've been to Munich 3 years ago for the first time to have to do some investigation for a book that my husband and I made together. So this is the second time.
I'd never been to Munich before, so I just came here this afternoon and I walked around the city to the Marienplatz and the market with the difficult name but with the very nice flowers and vegetables and truffles.
The Viktualienmarkt?
Yes.
Die beiden sind zurzeit, habe ich schon gesagt, sehr erfolgreich. Beide haben mehrere 100.000 Bücher ihrer aktuellen Romane in den Niederlanden verkauft. Das ist bei 16 Millionen Einwohnern wirklich eine ganze Menge. Das wäre bei uns vergleichbar, wenn jemand 1 Million oder mehr verkauft. Es sieht so aus, als ob sie jetzt... Yeah.
Wow.
You understand German, do you?
Yes.
Okay. Should we talk in German?
No.
Also es sieht für mich so aus, als ob die Frauen in den Niederlanden gerade sehr erfolgreich sind. Is this a new development in the crime scene novel in the Netherlands, that women are very successful?
Yes. Well, a whole new development started, I think, around 13 years ago when actually Nikki French, the English couple, started writing thrillers that also had a big psychological element that catered more to female readers instead of a book being somewhat scary, very scary, really scary, and shootings and mad maniacs. So these were the books that had a big appeal to the female audience, and I think that after that more women started writing these kind of books.
Now I think because Nikki French was very popular in the Netherlands, they were more popular in the Netherlands than they were in England, and still are. Maybe the Netherlands was more open to this kind of books, so thrillers that would appeal more to women. And maybe it's also the way that these thrillers were presented to the public. Because a normal thriller in the Netherlands was always, you know, with a man and blood and fire, etc. This Nikki French was a very serene kind of atmosphere on it, so you wouldn't feel awkward when you had this book, when you were reading this book in a train, you know. Normally, yeah. Now it is right when you're reading this book with all this fire and etc. and everybody's saying, "What are you reading?" And when there is just a beautiful book like this, nobody is. And it was this new.
Everybody feels safer around you.
I think it was one of the things that made this more popular.
Yeah, and also I think because women nowadays are increasingly busy, they just don't always have the time and patience to read a heavy literary book, and so that's why a thriller is an easy read. They know it's going to be exciting. They know they will actually finish the book, and they know they can just pick it up and read, and without that they have to think about all the heavy themes and the heavy metaphors and reread a page 10 times in order to understand what's being said. So I think because of the changed lifestyle of women, they want a book that's more accessible. But then, you know, the shooting and all the blood is a little bit too much. So this is a nice in-between form. It does have the psychological depth, but it doesn't have it's not the heavy, hard read.
Gibt es überhaupt, habe ich mich gefragt, männliche, erfolgreiche niederländische Schriftsteller im Augenblick, die Krimis schreiben? Are there Dutch crime novel writers that are successful as you are at the moment?
There's some more. Oh, you mean Dutch crime?
Dutch, only Dutch, yeah.
Female crime writers?
No, male. Male.
No, male.
Sorry.
Oh. No.
So they must be very jealous. Müssen sehr eifersüchtig sein, die Männer. They are, aren't they?
Some of them are, but there are also. Yeah, I don't know. They don't. They don't talk to us.
Also sie sind noch nicht bedroht worden. You haven't been threatened.
Not yet. Not yet. No. But also some male writers also have started writing this kind of book because they said, you know, if we can't beat them, we will join them. So.
And they have this cover.
And they use the same cover.
Yes, they get away from the blood and the shootings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gibt es in den Niederlanden eigentlich auch ein Krimi-Festival wie das hier in München? Do you have a crime literature festival like this in Munich?
Not like here, because it's a couple of weeks, I've heard, and you've got crime. You've got a crime month in the Netherlands, June. You've got a lot of things to do then for people who love thrillers, but I think not like this, that you've got every night a reading in another place.
In one city. It's all over the country.
Yeah.
Damit beenden wir den ersten Teil der Lesung kurz für Sie zur Orientierung. Wir haben uns eben jetzt alle zusammen ein bisschen unterhalten, das werden wir zum Schluss auch machen. Dann haben Sie auch die Möglichkeit, Fragen zu stellen. Und wir werden jetzt Schritt für Schritt die beiden Bücher und natürlich auch die beiden Autorinnen vorstellen. Und deswegen sage ich jetzt erstmal Danke an Esther Verhoef, weil wir die erst später wieder sprechen. Danke. Marion Pauw, I'll just tell the audience a few words about your biography.
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. Also ein paar Worte zu Marion Pauw. Sie ist in Tasmanien geboren, wuchs aber in den Niederlanden auf, kommt aus der Werbebranche, war Schlussredakteurin, Konzeptentwicklerin und hat sich dann, was ich sehr interessant finde, für einige Jahre in die Karibik abgesetzt. Darüber sollten wir auch noch sprechen. Jetzt wohnt sie wieder in den Niederlanden. Hat im vergangenen Jahr ihren 4. Roman dort veröffentlicht. Bei uns heißt ihr deutsches Debüt Blutige Asche. Daraus werden wir später auch dann einige Teile hören. In ihrer Heimat wurde dieser Roman als Bester des Jahres ausgezeichnet, wird gerade verfilmt und von ihm wurden mehr als 100.000 Stück allein verkauft in den Niederlanden. Born in Tasmania, a few years in the Caribbean, that sounds like a very nice life.
Not complaining.
How did it happen, the Caribbean part?
I was being a little fed up with all the rain and the grey skies, and I was longing for an adventure, and then I saw an advertisement that they were looking for a copywriter in the Caribbean at an advertising agency. So I just applied for the job, got the job, and went to the Caribbean. That's more or less it.
And why didn't you stay there?
Well, because it slows down your whole system, and that is actually the nice thing there. Because you here in the city life, you get so many impulses, and it's busy, and it's like your whole vibration. It is a lot faster than what happens when you're in the Caribbean. You just slow down and you take it easy, and you don't get upset about goats crossing the street and making you late for your appointment. Just like, okay, whatever. It's very calm and relaxed, and people are more focused on their spare time. For example, if you would ask a Dutch person, how are you? They would say, druk, 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 which means busy, 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 and they would consider that a good thing. And to me, when I was living in the Caribbean, that was just the most ridiculous answer you could ever imagine. And really promised myself I'll never be druk. But then when I moved back to Holland, unfortunately, I gotta say it's pretty busy. but the thing is that your brain just starts working slower, and whenever I would visit the Netherlands, I would think, boy, people talk so fast and they're so snappy and so pop. It's like, wow, how do they do it? It changes you. You become a different person. And for me as a writer, it is important to have to have the impulses and to experience things. And otherwise, you run out of inspiration. Yeah.
Mich interessiert in dem Zusammenhang auch gleich nachdem das Buch Schreiben ja eine unglaublich schwere und langwierige Aufgabe ist, wie sie dann dazu gekommen ist. When did you start your book and how long did it take you?
Well, I actually did start writing in the Caribbean when I was living there, and I can't really say how long the first book took me. I think nearly a year or so. But when I wrote my first book, I was not aware of any of the rules of a good book. I just wrote for fun, and I just wrote whatever I felt like writing, and then it came out, and then you get all the critics, and you're like, oh, maybe I should not show and tell, you know? So writing was never like that anymore, because the more you know, the difficult it is to, live up to your own standards.
Okay, eine sehr, sehr seltsame Mischung von Namen, die interessiert mich natürlich. What kind of names are these? What kind of meaning do they have?
The fish.
They are fish.
Yeah. Well, before Ray was in the institution, he used to have a salt water aquarium at his house, and I don't know if you're familiar with this phenomenon, but it is a very precarious system. You have to check everything every day, if the pH is okay, if there's enough salt, if the temperature is okay. It's very, very precarious. And for him, these fish mean the world, because he never had a safe home. And so with this aquarium, he tries to create the perfect place for the fish that he never had.
Have you had an aquarium as a child?
No. My son had an aquarium, but then one day he went to show his fish to the neighbors without the aquarium. So
not very good. How would you describe Ray, his character? You mentioned a few things. Could you tell us a little bit more about him?
Yeah. Well, Ray has autism. That means that he doesn't really understand. He cannot read between the lines. He can get the literal meaning of what people are saying, but he cannot interpret what people actually mean. He doesn't know what their facial expressions are. He doesn't know the intentions, or when they use metaphors of all this stuff, he gets very confused, and he can also get angry, and he can also get fixated on certain things.
Für diejenigen, die das vielleicht nicht ganz mitbekommen haben, also Ray ist autistisch, er hat also Schwierigkeiten, Sachen zu erfassen, vor allem komplexe Zusammenhänge und Anspielungen. Da ist es bei ihm schwierig. Gab es eigentlich einen bestimmten Grund, warum Marion Pauw einen autistischen Mann eingebaut hat in ihren Roman? Was there a special reason for creating an autistic character?
Yes, I wanted to give people a better insight of what autism means for a person. So the book also has another main character who has an autistic son. So you learn about autism through the eyes of somebody who is autistic. You actually see how this person thinks, and I wanted to show how vulnerable these people actually are, how they are lost in translation most of the time. And I also wanted to show how hard it is for the environment of an autistic person to deal with this, and also deal with the reactions of people around you.
Also Marion Pauw wollte unbedingt darstellen und mal in dem Roman, in dem Fall in dem Krimi, auch die Welt eines Autisten darstellen und wie die Umgebung reagiert.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you.
Ich weiß nicht, ob Marion Pauw in der Öffentlichkeit darüber reden will. Sie hat selbst ein autistisches Kind. Is it okay to talk about your son? He's autistic?
Yes.
Okay. Was this situation you described in the book, also diese Szene, die sie in dem Buch beschrieben hat, die Sie gerade auch alle gehört haben, war das was aus Ihrem Leben? Was this a situation from your life with your son?
Well, yes, I've been in restaurants and supermarkets and playgrounds and all the public places with a kid who was misbehaving very badly, and people around me saying, "Oh, you're such a bad mother, and why can't you control your kid?" and la la la. So yeah, that's a very familiar thing.
And you got used to it?
Well, you do get used to it. You have to get used to it. Yeah.
And how did the people react when they noticed that you wrote about it? Also wie haben die Leute, ihre Leser reagiert, als sie gemerkt haben, es geht wirklich in diesem Krimi auch um ein autistisches Kind?
Yeah, a lot of people come to me after readings and they tell me that they recognize situations like that and that they're glad that they're not the only one who have been judged as a bad mother, because now we have Super Nanny on television, and we think that, you know, if you just do everything right, that your kid will be perfect. But the thing is, some kids, you just can't put them in the naughty chair because it just won't work for them, and because they have other problems and they need a different approach. And but because of Super Nanny, everybody now thinks that it's the fault of the mother when the kid is not, you know, behaving the way it should be. So I think people have become way more judgmental of each other nowadays. Yeah.
Man sagt ja, dass autistische Kinder immer ein Spezialgebiet, ein Fachgebiet haben. Ist das bei Ihrem Sohn auch so? One says that autistic children are people to have a special kind of theme subject or a hobby. What about your son?
Well, he is crazy about snakes, so I'm not crazy about snakes. But yeah, he likes to catch snakes. He catches boa constrictors and other kind of snakes. And last time we were on Aruba, we actually saw a rattlesnake, and then he said, "You do realize that when I'm older, I will go catch him too?" I said, "Okay." So yeah, that's his thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much for now. We're going to continue with the reading.
Yeah.
Was soll man von einer Mutter halten, die ihr Kind so abgibt? Marion Pauw, what should we think about a mother who gives her child away?
Well, if she thinks that she cannot cope with it anymore, I mean, you must not underestimate how tough it is. And if you think that you cannot handle it yourself anymore, well, then you can come to a point where you think it's better for your child to be in an environment with professionals who might be able to, you know, put him in the right track. I don't think you should judge her too easy. You know, it's easy to say, "Oh, what kind of mother would do that?" But if you have a child that's beyond control and that just goes ballistic every single day, you're not able to have a normal life anymore, and nobody's able to have a normal life anymore. I do see where there's a point where you say, "Okay, this is out of my hands. I cannot handle this anymore."
In dem Buch spielt die Beziehung zwischen Mutter und Tochter, also die Mutter, die den Sohn weggegeben hat, und Iris, die recherchiert, warum das alles passiert ist, auch eine große Rolle. Ich frage mich auch, hat Marion Pauw bewusst einen Mutter-Tochter-Konflikt einbauen wollen in diesem Buch? Was it one of your approach to make a conflict between a mother and
Well, we all know that all our traumas in life are all caused by the mother, so it's...
you really mean all the dramas?
No, but it's a classic, I think, and it worked for this book. Yeah. But it was not that I necessarily wanted a mother-daughter tension, but it just worked out that way.
Did your mother read the book?
Yeah.
What did she say?
Well, I mean, it's not about her, obviously, so... Yeah.
Okay,